welcome back, murderinos, to our true crime podcast, where we're going to see if this corruption goes all the way to the top. And by corruption, I mean the audio file from this episode that we already recorded. And now are we doing it again? I always find it's best to just be transparent. I'm not going to pretend like we didn't already fucking talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
And that this is my exasperated second attempt.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so happy to be here. Hi, Emily. How are you doing?
All right. How you doing?
I'm okay. I was really inclined to call you Phlegmily when I released that. I was like, oh, sorry, episode will be a little bit late. Due to the corruption, which we can, we're not going to get into. It doesn't go all the way to the top. The truth of the matter is I think I just forgot to turn my microphone on because I have one brain cell.
You know what?
So case cracked. This is not a true crime podcast. It's our movie podcast. It's called The Swamp. It's an acronym.
Stands for some whack-ass movie podcasting.
And today, this week, it feels like it's been a lifetime now that we've been discussing the 1960 film Psycho.
Yeah, we recorded this. We were being really good, too. It was like Saturday or Sunday or something like that. And
ahead of time.
Way ahead of
not
schedule.
Not the night before.
Nope. Mm-hmm. And now here we are recording Friday morning.
2 days late, but that's okay. Whatever.
What are you gonna do?
Thank you all for being here. Welcome to October. Ooh, welcome to October. We're just gonna do horror movies this month. General topic of horror. Mostly, I think it's like for me catching up on some big ones.
Yeah.
I don't engage with the genre like too much. So I think I'm like hitting some important ones I've never seen this month.
I think now's a good time because I think horror is having her heyday at the moment after the summer that we had. Maybe not heyday, but she's having a moment.
Well, actually, I was about to just rag on Joker Folie Deux, but that was not a horror movie. I don't think anyone is saying that's a horror movie. Actually, I don't think anyone's even saying the first one is even a psychological thriller. I wouldn't even call it.
I would say it's entertainment, and that's it.
Yeah,
and I don't know how good of a job it's doing on the entertaining part.
It was doing awful. My review, you'll hear it here, and then I will probably not talk about it again. Joker Folie Deux gets a big thumbs down from me. I thought it was so fucking boring. Like, how did you make a jukebox musical starring Lady Gaga so boring?
I mean, you really have to work at that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you have to be so miserable and insufferable and void of any fun.
Yeah.
Or just like a concept of what fun even is to just like ruin that. But we're not here to talk about Joaquin Phoenix.
We're here to talk about Megalopolis, actually.
Oh my God. Did you see Megalopolis?
No, I am trying to find the time. I don't know if it's worth. It's obviously not worth it.
You're trying to find the time. I'm not trying to find the time to go see Megalopolis. It looks like shit. I get what that's for, and it's not for me.
I think I just want to see the train wreck of it.
Well, yes, that's actually super fair.
I just watch people walk out of the theater.
Well, yeah, right. I've heard more accounts of people leaving the theater in Megalopolis than Joker, which is funny to me because I would expect people to walk out of Joker because it was so bad, but. Okay, Francis Ford. No, I see you keeping the race tight.
I mean, yeah, with something that is self-funded and produced and all of that, and with everything we've heard about the set, I could only imagine what the actual content is.
I've heard it's just edited like a perfume ad, like from beginning to end. Just like
really,
like a Gucci perfume ad. Just like weird sweeping shots of shiny skin, and it just like. Intercuts. It doesn't really make any sense. Like that's fucking 2+ hours of just that is the consensus I seem to get from Twitter.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of iconic. Like that's kind of hilarious.
I've heard people say that they're like, yeah, for what it's worth, I do think this does impact Francis Ford Coppola's legacy. It's that bad. Because like he's already,
oh my God.
Yeah, he's already legendary and iconic and all that. So making a film so bad this late at the end of your life that it's gonna put that black mark on you, also kind of iconic. Leave us with a flop, girl.
Yes, she really did that. Give us nothing, girl. Go, girl. Give us nothing. Obsessed.
But we are here to talk about Psycho.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Psycho. I had never seen this movie. Neither had you, right?
I've seen it. I saw it like probably when I was like 17 or 18 or so, and I was like, okay, let me do my due diligence. Sure. I still had cable TV at the time, so I'm like, yeah, why not?
Sure. Yeah, it's like on Turner Classic Movies, I'm
Yeah,
sure,
and it
for
was, like,
free.
I mean, it's fine. It's a fine movie,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Shouts out TCM. Yeah, it's all right. I'd never seen it before, but I knew the big things, right?
Well, yeah.
Prefacing this episode will be spoiling the 1960 film Psycho. If you don't know that she's gonna get murked in the shower, please leave now.
Please go outside.
And if you didn't know that Miss Thing was doing drag, then you can also just
There's
go watch
the door.
it. But just kidding. It wasn't drag, actually. That is inflammatory and problematic for me to say because
we'll get into
this movie is actually like low-key kind of problematic and aiding into some harmful stereotypes that I think this movie maybe helped like foundationally create within the genre, perhaps.
Probably.
Yikes.
Definitely,
Yikes, Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock not being a chill guy? Who'd have thunk it? Not me.
I don't know enough about him, but he strikes me probably as the same way that oh god, what's his name? He did Space Odyssey and
Stanley Kubrick. Yes.
He strikes me as like a Stanley Kubrick type, where it's like, you're making actors cry on set and no ramifications.
He's a genre-defining genius or whatever, but also just like is abusing women the whole fucking time.
Yes,
so
of course.
Really, let's call that genius with a grain of salt.
I mean, that was anything before 1980, so
right. Unfortunately, not an excuse, but just a fact.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had never seen this movie before. There were no surprises here for me for the most part, really, other than my surprise about like how taken I was with Mr. Anthony Perkins. I was kind of like,
get me started.
I was like, why am I kind of like, I will go into the bird room. Like, I'll go into the taxidermy bird room and hang out with you and talk about your mommy issues. Like, yeah, that actually I would. You would have got my ass as well, sir.
I don't think it takes much to lure you in somewhere, though. Like, we were just talking on the Patreon about the substance corridor that she has to go in, which is objectively one of the most, like, unsettling red flags, like, don't go down here spaces that I've seen in movies in ages. And Dara said, absolutely, I'd go in. I'd have to know.
Well, geocaching. I feel like geocaching built in me, like, you gotta find it, right? You gotta go. You gotta successfully complete the mission. I don't even want to take the substance. I'm not going to shoot myself I'm not going to inject myself with anything. That's terrifying, but I'm going to go through the little door and find it. I am.
Yeah. So yeah, Anthony Perkins luring you in with some warm milk, some taxidermy birds, and an open-faced sandwich.
Maybe not the warm milk. That is sinister.
That's the thing that's putting you off.
That is a sinister drink. Is a warm milk?
Oh, yes.
Before bed? Absolutely not. There is like chemical, like there's science that proves that is a real thing, that if you drink warm milk, you will get sleepy because biology, because your brain was a baby at one point and warm milk should make you sleepy because of mommy biology.
That.
Warm milk, huge mommy issue drink to bring in. Shouts out Alfred Hitchcock, you knew.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd never seen him act in anything before. And I was watching this with my husband and I was like, are we supposed to be charmed by him? And he was like, no, what is wrong with you? Absolutely not. Like, he is like the textbook version of guy you should stay away from who lives in the creepy house up the hill and like is mumbling to himself. Like, he's the textbook serial killer, Daryl. What is wrong with you? And I'm like, I'm kind of charmed. I was like, I kind of see the appeal.
Again, maybe it speaks to why she got her ass murdered, because I'm on the same page with you. Maybe it's like the woman's thing. I'm like, oh yeah, he's a cutie. And again, we have this scene at the end where, oh god, what's his name? Max? Sam,
the boyfriend. The sneaky link Sam.
Yeah. Sneaky link Sam comes in and just starts drilling Anthony Perkins, because he's like, I know my girlfriend's dead somewhere around here. What the fuck did you do? But he reads him right off the bat.
I know my girlfriend is dead around here somewhere, and I'm actually starting to catch a vibe for her sister. So if you could wingman me, we could kind of set this up. That would actually be great, Norman. Can we can we just get that body, packaged to go so I can go take the sis and hit the town? Like, that was the vibe I was getting. Which I guess, I was doing a little bit of research, and I guess that this is based off of a book. And in the book, the boyfriend and the sister do get together in the book, and that they like left it out in the movie, which I thought was interesting because I was catching that vibe for sure. A podcast actually takes a lot of work. You have to make a Google Calendar. You have to schedule the episodes. It's really hard, and I put a lot of work into it, whatever she says.
Yeah.
If there's, I try my best. I'm no audio engineer, but I try my best to equalize our levels. But if Emily sounds different now, it's because her mic was also not on for this first 10 minutes. So this is just a disaster episode this week, I think. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking around with us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And thank you. Yeah, thank you for being here to talk about Psycho, which is, I was just saying, based on a book, which is based on the real serial killer. Yeah, it was based on like a fictionalized book that was based off of the real serial killer, Ed Gein.
Sure.
He was just a real serial killer, and this is a murder true crime podcast, obviously. So I should know that. No, I think as a culture, or at least I think Gen Z specifically, has kind of got the ick from like millennial women who like true crime a little too much, which I think is a pretty good thing, because I think like looking at it and being like, why are we like romanticizing or at least like just dramatizing for entertainment these like real things with like victims' families who are still alive and shit? Like that shit is so fucked.
Don't get me started about Ryan Murphy's crimes against humanity.
Oh my God, that man's commitment to the true crime genre and just doing it in the least ethical way fucking possible is actually astonishing.
Yeah. If you guys don't know, Ryan Murphy has just recently produced, what's it called? Monsters, a new American crime story series about the Menendez brothers, who were assaulted by their father for most of their young lives, I believe, and then killed both of their parents. And he's profiting off of it, and it's fucked and it's disgusting, and his portrayal of them is incestuous and dramatized, obviously, and just generally unpleasant and I think untrue.
Yeah, icky. Well, the thing that got me really was that in an interview he said, like, I have no interest in talking to those men. And like, they're the subjects of your art. You don't, what do you mean you have no interest? That means that you're not making this for art then, or for your own interest, or for your own creative pursuits. That means that there's something sinister afoot here, that you really have no interest in going to speak to the real life people who you're fictionalizing their lives. That is like an insane thing to say out loud. An even crazier thing to brush under the rug. Oh, not me using two problematic pieces of language just then. Crazy and insane. Let's talk about that. I say those words, and I'm trying my best to get better at not saying it.
That's a hard one to take out of the vocab.
I mean,
so I think you're all
it's
right.
A spectrum. I think let's target like things like Psycho. Actually, it's like not to loop it back, but calling someone psychotic, or especially like using specific like I'm going to say some words right now in the way of saying that you shouldn't say them, like spaz, schizo, psycho, just things like that. I think we should really big red flags we should stay away from. But on the edges of that, I think are also words like insane and crazy, which, in certain contexts can definitely be misconstrued. And it's not really, there's better words. I've been trying to say wild more. I don't know why that's like a better, but like, oh, that was wild rather than like, that was crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good,
But the whole stigmatization of mental illness is something that is really at the core of this movie in particular. But
Absolutely.
I think it's at the core of a lot of horror, specifically like psychological thriller dramas, is basing the antagonist all around some specific piece of mental illness.
Something's wrong with him.
Oh, look at Joker Foileau. Like, he has an unexplained mental illness that we're just going to use as a catalyst for him being not a good guy. Specifically DID, dissociative identity disorder, which used to be called multiple personality disorder, or just sort of the general umbrella mental illness of, having multiple personalities. They obviously did not have the science or the language to really truly unpack this in 1960, but I do think that this handling of it is most certainly problematic, specifically with the association between someone with DID and like cross-dressing and like gender expression specifically being essentially saying all men who like to dress up as women are mentally ill. Is not that movie is hardcore making that statement, but it's certainly like inferring it and implying it and setting a groundwork for future horror movies to be like, oh, men who dress like their mothers, men who put on their mother's heels, that's creepy. Like, no, that's just gender expression. That's normal. That and having a personality disorder are not mutually exclusive, which is the slightly problematic part of Psycho here, which I guess if you've never seen it, our main character, Miss Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, Janet Lee.
I got a lot to say about Janet Lee in this.
Miss Janet Lee, girl giving us nothing but face.
Oh my god. Janet Lee acted her ass off, but only with, like, staring contemplatively, kind of nervously into the distance. I've never seen someone face act so hard for, like, minutes on end. Just, like, long, continuous shots of her driving into the night, looking rather concerned and just...
That's so me, though. I was obsessed with that. The way that she was driving with her headlights off, her windshield wipers on the lowest setting, driving straight into a storm, and then it would cut. This movie was low-key a little funnier than I was expecting it to be, actually. The visual gag of, like, showing the car fucking swerving in the rain and then cutting back to a still shot of a camera on a level surface directly to her face of her just, like, serving cunt, of her, like, smizing, of her serving Tyra Banks' face, like, and then cutting back to the swerving car. Her hands weren't even on the fucking steering wheel. Like, she was, like, doing a model moment. It was so funny. Along with, like,
the light.
The car, like, sinking into the swamp and then stopping.
That scratched my brain so hard, dude.
The bloop, 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 bloop sounds, and then it, like, stopping and him being like, fuck, the car's not gonna sink, and then it sinks all the way. So funny. Comedy can be so simple like that. Just, like, the timing of, oh, fuck, the car's not gonna sink. Like, oh, I pushed the car to the swamp, it's not gonna sink. But Miss Janet Lee, she's having her sneaky link with Mr. Sneaky Link Sam. And the way this movie set this up, I truly was like, infidelity. They're both married and they're both cheating on their spouses with each other. Why are they having a little tryst in a hotel room, like, sneakily during the workday, during work hours? No, it's just that he's poor and he can't marry her because he is divorced and has to give alimony payments to his wife.
He's
this. He's like, I'm not rich enough to, like, support a second wife, so, like, we can't be together. And she's like, fuck. But they're acting like it's, like, really, like, ooh, some secret sex.
God forbid if someone ever saw us, our lives would be over. And they're fully just two single and available and hot people.
Two, like, single adults, like, with complete, autonomy. But she works at this, like, real estate office, and she returns after her sneaky sex back to work. And this, like, fucking oil tycoon, who's the worst guy ever, just comes in and, like, sits.
Made the worst one since this,
right? He, like, sits on her desk. Oh, I hate that. A man sitting on the table you're at to talk to you is actually the worst thing that anyone can ever do. And he's like, my 18-year-old daughter, who's the love of my life and also my property, is getting married. So I have to take out. He gives her $40,000 in cash so that he can buy a house.
Yeah, nuts.
Which, okay, and the bank is sort of like, this is weird. People don't buy houses with cash. But sure, Janet Lee, go take this to the bank.
Yeah.
And you know my ass had my inflation calculator out, because anytime
what does it equal up again?
Anytime a movie before the year 2010 says a figure of money, I have to know. And it's super easy, actually. You sort of just tack a zero into the end. It's like $420,000. So, like, let's just say $400K.
Jesus Christ.
Right. So Miss Janet Lee takes what is in today's money almost $500,000, and she just hits the road and she says, well, Sam and I can be together now.
Honestly,
problem solved.
Like, I would too. At that point,
so easy to do crime in 1960. In 1960, they don't have cameras. They don't have DNA tracking. What are they going to do?
She could have gotten away with this.
You.
She could have gotten away with this so easily if she was just a little better and a little less suspicious. Because this is the most suspicious a woman has ever been in her, I mean, since in all of history, I think.
They should show this to like teens to be like, hey, do you see how she's talking to that cop? This is how you seem suspicious. If you have something to hide, or even if you're just ever talking to a cop in general, even if you have nothing to hide, don't fucking wiggle your eyebrows and make weird expressions and be like, well, what do you think I'm hiding? Like, don't bring it up. She brought it up first. She's like, it seems like you think I have something to hide. And I'm like, girl, don't just
you know who would say that? Someone that has something to hide.
Right. And so the cop literally like follows her from the fucking parking lot. Like
I would have done the same thing, honestly.
Honestly, a cab, but that cop had every right to be suspicious as fuck of her because she was acting sus. But of course, all cops are useless. He doesn't actually ever solve or help anything in this crime-riddled scenario.
Yeah,
so
I thought he was gonna like end up getting himself murdered because he was like following her and checking in and like do the thing where the cop comes. No, a whole other detective gets murdered though. They have time to take him out of the equation and throw. What's his name? Arbogast? Private Detective Arbogast into the mix.
Shouts out P.I. Arbogast, who comes in fucking guns a-blazing and says, hey, I already know what happened here, so just point me to the body, why don't you? And Norman's like, ha ha ha, I don't know what you mean. And he's like, no, I'm not asking. I'm telling you to point me to the body. Obsessed with Arbogast's convictions. He was a real one. But to backpedal a little bit, she takes the money and dashes, and then she ends up at this hotel, this Bates Motel, where Norman Bates lives up in a creepy house on the hill and runs this motel, which used to be off of the highway, but they since have changed where the major highway is. So they don't get a lot of business anymore. So he says, but he's basically just running this creepy motel. And he's like, there's 12 rooms and there's 12 vacancies. And so she's the only person at this. If you're a woman, you should probably leave at that point. I'm sorry. Like, if a creepy man says you're the only person here other than me, like, even if he is a little cute and telling you to look at his taxidermy birds, you need to be smart and go. Don't be like me. Be smart, and you need to get back in your car.
Like me.
Go sleep in your car again, Janet Leigh. Like, it's safer to sleep in your car on the side of the road, perhaps.
Right.
But he basically is like, goes back up to the house to get her some dinner, and then like has an argument with his mother where she is sort of berating him. And then we come back and Janet Leigh's like, hey, your mom seems like kind of horrible. And he's like, well, you struck a nerve there. You struck a nerve. I love my mother, actually, and I take care of her because I'm a good person. So why don't you mind your fucking business? But the two of them sort of have this conversation where then Janet Leigh is sort of departing with the newfound wisdom that she should just go back to the town, that she should return the money.
See if she can fix her mistakes.
Right. But Norman is a little peeping Tom, and he peeps on her while she's changing. He's a little weirdo. And then we see the iconic shower scene that, if you don't know, it's just Janet Leigh gets her hair wet so we can see her cunty little pixie cut. And then a big old knife just comes through the shower curtain.
Yep.
Great score. Got to give it to them. They hit me with that.
The score was doing all the legwork in this movie.
Right? The heavy lifting of those violin hits, those orchestral hits.
Anytime someone stopped talking for 0.5 seconds, the song came back on. Yeah.
It's great. It's giving me Halloween. But she gets got. She gets stabbed to death in the bathroom.
Yes.
And by presumably we just see like a shadow of a figure of a person, but it's sort of implied that it's Norman's mother because we see like
the dress and
a low gray bun, like a
low gray bun,
a low bun. And then basically her sister is like, hey, I haven't heard, because they live together or something. And she's like, hey, I haven't heard from my sister in a week. That's weird. Let me find Sneaky Lake Sam, because I knew she was going to go, do something with you because we're sisters. We tell each other everything. They link up with Arbogast, who then goes to solve the crime, gets his ass murdered as well, unfortunately. And then Sam, and what was even the sister's name? I don't know.
I don't know.
Sneaky Link and sister go to the motel, and are basically like, we're going to solve this for ourselves because Norman has dumped her body and her car into the swamp.
Yeah.
And they go to sort of figure things out at this point. And basically they find that the mother is not real, that she is a corpse.
She's not alive, yeah.
She's a corpse, which the way that they set this up, that it's like her from the back in the basement with her little wig on, and then they like turn the body around to reveal that she's a skeleton, and like you couldn't smell it. Like you thought that was a real woman until you touched her.
Well, it's been like 10 years or so I think like all the rot stuff is probably
she's mummified.
Off. Yeah, exactly.
Still, you didn't catch a glimpse of her shoulder and say, that's not a shoulder, that's a bone. That's a piece of fabric draped on a bone. She got bones sticking out, okay? But basically, they realized that it was Norman doing all of this violence and murder, and that the mother that he was speaking to is not a real person, but himself. And then we have this great thing that old movies do, where a man comes in, where there's 3 minutes left in the film, and a man comes in and says, hey, I'm going to wrap things up real nice for you. And he's like, I'm a psychologist. I'm a psychologist. I'm just going to tell you what happened this whole movie in case you didn't
and
get it.
Psychologists back then did have that accent. I'll have you guys know.
Let me tell you. Well, he was dressing like his mother. It's like, that's the diagnosis, basically. But basically, he says that Norman cannot be blamed for these murders because he essentially repressed this memory. His father died, and he and his mother developed this really codependent attachment. The mother then gets a boyfriend. He's jealous that her attention is elsewhere, so he murders them both.
Yeah.
Don't know why we're not really taking that into account, but he murders them both, and then in order to cope with the fact that he just murdered his mother, he then adopts her identity as a second identity, and that he lives within himself as both him and his mother, and it's this sort of conflicting psychosexual thing, right, where anytime a woman comes in, the Norman side of him feels like the mother side is pulling, because it's that sort of pulling attention away from this codependent mother-son thing that is within him, essentially, and that's why he killed her. And that's why he dresses up like her, because I guess he has to put on her clothes in order to like fully assume her identity. I guess
to really get it right
within this really loose DID diagnosis that's going on here. But he basically has been dressing up like his mother to kill the victims, and then as Norman doesn't, I mean, he knows that he did it, but it's like a separate, sort of feeling. And then we just get this final shot of him looking really creepy, and we just assume that he's going to be put away. I didn't know that this movie has like 5 sequels. There's a whole franchise.
Are you serious?
There's like a ton of them. Yeah.
Not all done by Alfred Hitchcock, right?
No, I don't think so. I think it's very much like a Halloween John Carpenter situation. But let me just look to see who directed the second one.
I was going to say, is it all Anthony Perkins?
Well, so Anthony Perkins was in the second one, and it was made in 1983, actually. So quite a time. Quite a time after. It was directed by, Richard Franklin, who I don't see anything that he's ever done that I have known. A movie called Patrick, Hotel Sorrento, The Blue Lagoon, and Link. Just a bunch of like 80s sort of like B movies, it seems. But yeah, I'm like, where do you even, there's no place to go from here. This is kind of what that guy stepped in at the last 3 minutes to put a nice little bow on this for us. We don't need any sequels.
Yeah, I mean, apparently Vera Miles, who plays Lila, who's the sister, also came back for the second one too. So
wild.
Yeah, I mean, truly. How many others? That's crazy. Psycho 3. 1986. Jesus. Oh, wow. He directed Psycho 3.
Anthony Perkins?
Yeah.
Which, not to rush into heavy and problematic topics, but I do think this is a good time to, I know I already mentioned, that this movie is a little damaging and a little harmful to
yes. Yeah, let's get into it.
Of course, but specifically like gender expression and the association between a man dressing up like a woman and that being, you know, he's a killer now. Oh, he puts on a dress and now
this
he's
definitely
an
kicked
evil
off.
old lady. Which is, there's a lot to unpack there.
Not very
as far
chill of you, Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, it wasn't very woke of you, Fred. Alfie. Calling him Alfie because we're on that sort of basis. Basically, I was sort of curious. I didn't really know too much about this movie or Anthony Perkins. I'd never seen it before. And in my research, I sort of realized that Anthony Perkins had a whole life and a whole sad end of his life that I didn't really know anything about. And it sort of ties in with the problematic themes of this movie, like a little too much, which was a little concerning.
A history lesson.
But yeah, basically, from what I found, Anthony Perkins was not heterosexual. We don't want to label him as gay or anything specific, but he was a queer man. He had long relationships with men during his life that were like sexual and romantic. So he was interested in men in the 60s and earlier. So obviously, I'm sure that was fucking hard.
Yeah.
What was even harder was that later in the 70s, he like put himself through conversion therapy and essentially was like, I don't want to be gay. It's so hard. And like, it's so difficult in my life. I would like to just be quote unquote normal and straight. And I'm sure like being in the public eye so much was not helpful. But he basically went to conversion therapy and they put him on the track towards women. And they were kind of like, oh, like, look in this magazine. Who do you think you would like? And he just sort of picks this woman. And, did I not write her name down? Fuck. What I think was Vogue. He sees a picture of Barry Berenson, which sounds like a fake name.
Yeah.
But he sees a picture of Barry Berenson and he's like, yeah, her. She seems fine. Normal woman. So they set up for the two of them to meet and they meet and they get married and they, link up and join forces.
That's how it happened.
That's how it happened, right? They put a man and a woman in a room.
You get a milkshake. You get a milkshake together twice and then you're engaged.
Right. The first time, 2 separate straws, but the second time you share the straw to see how it feels. And to see if there's a little spark there.
Oh, yeah.
No, but he marries Barry Berenson and they have 2 children together, one of whom is Oz Perkins of Longlegs fame, if you didn't know.
I feel like I should have known that. And like maybe it crossed like the very back of my mind because Perkins is not a name that I hear all the time.
I guess.
It makes sense. Everything he said and all of the pretentious air about him and his movie compared to other modern day horror. Yeah, I get it. Your dad is Anthony Perkins, so
yeah, you actually kind of have the cred to be a little bit of a douche about it. Actually,
fine.
But yeah, I did not know that Oz Perkins was Anthony Perkins' biological son.
Interesting to see where his career takes him because I know he's already got another film coming out called like The Monkey or something, and there was promo for it before Longlegs, so it's a tight turnaround.
Yeah, interesting. I don't really know. I mostly knew.
I wasn't wowed.
I was surprised by the Twitter drop that he is the same guy from Legally Blonde. I didn't really realize that either, that he was in like Elle Woods' study group. He's like the awkward guy with the bangs. And that's Oz Perkins. And then he made Longlegs, I guess. But Miss Barry Berenson and Anthony Perkins have 2 kids together. But Anthony Perkins is having some relations with men on the side, as we cannot blame him for, because he has tried to conversion therapy himself into being a straight man, which is just so fucked.
It's so sad.
And then he passes away of HIV, which is also incredibly sad. But then on
if it wasn't sad enough.
Yeah, another wild turn, Miss Barry Berenson dies in the plane on 9/11. She was in the plane that hit the tower.
That's insane.
It's just a wild series of events, but very
that's
sad
life, I guess.
For Mr. Well, not really though.
Not really. Not for most people.
Not for most people.
Is Oz Perkins okay?
Well, clearly, probably not. That's probably why he's out here cranking up some long legs. which I have not seen and have no opinion of. People were like, I was shitting and pissing myself in the theater, and I was like, there's just no way that's true.
No. Yeah, I saw it. It wasn't that good, in my opinion.
I'm sure it was like a little more scary than people were maybe expecting or something. But when people are like, literally I threw up all over myself, I'm like, no, you didn't. Like,
yeah,
no,
stop saying that. You didn't.
But
you wouldn't have been escorted out of the theater.
Right? Yeah, banned from the AMC. Like, your Stubbs membership does not cover you self-puking. Like, that's not part of the perks.
Yeah, no.
I saw a good tweet that was like, you should be able to smoke flower inside if you're an AMC Stubbs member.
Honestly true.
Like, I want to be able to smoke indoors at the AMC if I pay for that tier.
I don't have to be zeroing my hits in the back of the empty theater. That's hard work.
I always forget that like 90% of the airport is just secret rooms for rich people, right? And I'm like, how many indoor smoking rooms are there still? Like secret indoor smoking rooms for rich people in the fucking airport? We should have that not just for rich people, but for AMC Stubbs list members. Yeah, indoor smoking rooms. Let's bring that back.
Oh my god! If I could bring my tiny little bong to the AMC. I wouldn't leave.
They should sell them at the concession. The movie place that I go to sells blankets. They sell blankets at the concession stand so that you can bring it in for your comfy chair, which then gives me the green flag that I'm like, oh, so I can sneak in my own blanket, which if you're selling them here, I can most definitely smuggle one in a tote.
I feel like you don't even need to smuggle. I think
I don't think I want my shit from home like touching the seats at the theater.
That's like a blanket you keep in your car.
Yeah,
in like a tote bag in the back. Yeah.
Yep.
Love a car blankie. Couldn't tell you how many times I've used my car blankie. Take naps in the parking lot at work.
When you have to wipe something up hazardously very suddenly, and then you have to get rid of the work blankie because it was a key component in cleaning up a dire mess. That's usually how the car blankie goes for me.
You're on your 4th gen.
Right. But it makes me kind of sad to think that Anthony Perkins in 1960 was given this role and was like, okay, so when you act effeminate and when you dress up like a woman, that's when you become the killer.
Yeah,
right.
Evil.
And he's dealing, I'm sure, with these feelings of, not wanting to be gay because the society that you participate in wants you fucking dead. So sure, he like had a lot of repressed shit, and that was probably just not a great feeling. And it makes me sad to think about Anthony Perkins like being reinforced of these insecurities and beliefs through this, this horror movie that just didn't really need to be using that as the catalyst. I think there are more interesting ways that you could go about as to why someone is the killer. And you can even do a mommy issues thing, right? But it just doesn't have to, like, why did he have to put the wig on? Why did it have to be about the performative aspects of femininity being the indicator of like severe mental illness?
Right, he could have just had, what is it, DID?
Yeah, I mean,
he could have just had that and not had to get dressed up as his mom to kill people.
Or I don't know. I don't know what I would exactly fix about this. I think a lot of movies in the genre that deal specifically with like a named and known mental illness, like I specifically think of that movie Split, right? Where they're like, oh, he has DID and he has all these personalities and that's the thing we're going to explore. But like under the guise of them being a killer or like an evil, malicious, violent person, I just think is very damaging and it does more harm than good. And it's never, to me, an interesting or enticing story, really, enough to justify the fact that you're just villainizing people with mental illness. And most people who have those conditions just need help and rehabilitation and good healthcare systems and support systems, and continuing to be like, people with these illnesses, you should inherently be scared of them is not really a cool thing to be blasting out into the public opinion.
No, and I wish I could go back in time and see what the landscape of film was like back then to see how, I'm guessing that this movie was pretty groundbreaking from what everything I've heard and history and everything like that. Obviously it's iconic for a reason, but in terms of horror movies and comparatively to everything out there today, I'm bored. Visually, it's stunning. I will say that. Visually, it's great. I think that every director should have to do a black and white movie first before they do anything else now. Because you need to understand shape and light and shadows and things like that. Because movies don't have that anymore.
Like, in order to get your movie greenlit, you have to go through a trial period where you make the movie in black and white first, and then we give you the budget and color and the ability to work in color, because it was wild. I really didn't think about it too much until this movie. I was like, oh my god, shadows! I do not see
any more shadows
in a realistic, like in real life. Shadows fucking take up space and are a real part of your landscape and your environment, and in movies they just don't exist. Because nobody wants to fucking hire gaffers anymore. Where are the gaffers?
No,
they'd probably unionized.
They'd rather have the shadows put in post.
Yeah, the gaffers all unionized, and they said, don't worry, we can just abuse the post VFX workers and make them work overtime and do it. We just won't hire you.
Yeah, I mean, should we talk about the Wicked trailer?
Oh my god. So do you have any insight as to whether this is a part 1 of 2 or if this is the whole movie Wicked? Because I have absolutely no concept.
1 of 2. I don't know.
The runtime is the same as the
musical.
As the stage version of the show, and they're saying that it's just part 1 of 2. What do you mean? That's the whole show. How could you possibly? And they're not advertising it
April
as like Wicked.
April 2022, it was announced that it will be split into 2 films. The first half will premiere in November, and then we'll see what the second half.
Well,
I don't know what the fuck they could possibly add to it,
because they haven't said. They haven't said anything. They haven't called it part 1. They haven't announced that the second one has been filmed, greenlit. I would assume they filmed them all at the same time. That would have been smart.
I mean, that would make the most sense, but
yeah, the marketing surrounding the Wicked movie is so perplexing to me.
It's atrocious.
I mean, I think I'm gonna have to go just to get a sense.
See, I feel like it's on the same scale of like Megalopolis, where I'm like, oh, I know it's gonna be horrific.
Yeah. But just, that the ad just looks like fucking ass. Everything is so washed out. Everything looks, I mean, of course it looks fake because they're clearly going for this like glossy sort of stylized look.
Except they're
but
not.
It doesn't even seem like thoughtful or stylized. It just looks bad. It just
turn up anything. Color grade it a little bit. It looks like so bland and matte and like great. Yeah, exactly. That's the word I was looking for. Flat.
It just looks really flat, which is
interesting. Know what's not flat? Technicolor. You know what's in Technicolor? The Wizard of Oz, girl.
Right. Yeah, literally. But shadows. Like, add a shadow. Add a little. Give me something. Half an inch. Just a little. That's my favorite thing to do. And graphic design hack. Add a little drop shadow. That's all I do. Add a little drop shadow and you're a pro.
That's all you need. But yeah, I mean, like, overall, I think in the grand scheme of like horror films, this is fine. It's fine. I mean, comparatively now, it's boring.
Yeah.
Because it was 1960, and I'm like, okay. And now you have stuff like The Terrifier. You know, horror has come so. Horror. You don't know what The Terrifier is?
No. I don't want to be terrified, so I stay away.
It's just this insane. It's just insanely gory horror film that's been doing the rounds. I just heard Katya talk about it on The Bald and the Beautiful about 900 times.
Oh, that's the one where people were pissing and shitting themselves, like, for real. Like, actually.
Yes. Yeah, probably. Yeah. If bitches were pissing and shitting, it was at The Terrifier. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't like torture porn like that.
Not for me.
I need the violence to have enough context to be like drawing me in to watch it. Like, I think a great example, if you want to listen to us talk about The Substance, we just did a bonus episode on the Patreon about The Substance. But
I can't wait to hear Katya's thoughts on The Substance. That's for sure.
But the gore and the violence in The Substance was encased in an engaging story that I was captured in, and I wanted to see what was going to happen, and it was interesting and cool. And that, I feel like, is a creative way to make a scary movie rather than just picking an inflammatory subject and then just being like, oh, and then they just stab each other to death. It's like, that's not interesting to me.
I think it also says plenty about, I mean, when men make horror films versus women making horror films. I think there's a lot to be said about that. I think, I don't know. I think there's a lot of women who are just showing up and showing out right now. I'm thinking of the director who did Love Lies Bleeding in particular. And just so freaky and weird. And let me find it. What's her name?
Because we also covered Love Lies Bleeding over on the Patreon. Not to plug the Patreon, but we try to talk about new movies over there, even though we've been talking about new movies this whole episode. But we try to keep it cornered over there with new stuff. So we just talked about The Substance, but we've also talked about Love Lies Bleeding. I think there's actually a fair amount of back catalog at this point, where I can tell you that your $2.86 will get you like a decent amount of bonus episodes. At this point in the Patreon, Swamp Patreon
for
canon,
like at least a year at this point, right?
Yeah, we do one bonus a month. So you actually have a fair amount of backlog of bonus content if you subscribe to the Patreon. Yeah, female filmmakers showing up and showing out lately. Miss Coralie Faget and The Substance is my Halloween moment right now.
So good. I can see everyone ordering their costumes of like Elizabeth, like with the
fuck ass
coat
jacket. Yup, that yellow coat and the gloves. That's honestly,
I'm just thinking of her running down the stairs with Margaret Qualley.
Yes, dragging her behind. Wait, couples costume idea. One of you be Sue, and lesbians, get on it. One of you should be Sue and one of you should be Elizabeth, and you should drag each other through your apartment. That would be so fun, like a slip and slide. I'd be like, babe, let's go again.
That'd be hysterical. Oh my god, no, I can't wait to see someone's take on Monstro Alyssa Sue.
Monstro Alyssa Sue. The three of your friends can get saran wrapped together and just like dump whatever's in your refrigerator on yourself, and then whatever's like almost about to be expired, that could be really fun. Send us your Halloween costumes as well. We love to see what people are like. If you show up and show out for Halloween, if you're a dedicated costume wearer, curator, creator, please. I love a good Halloween moment.
Maybe I'll go for Hunter Schafer and Cuckoo. Maybe that'll be mine. That feels like an easy one.
Did you see that movie?
Yeah.
Oh, you liked it. I didn't care for it.
I liked it. I really enjoyed it.
I thought it was also boring. That's the other thing about horror movies that are boring. I'm like, why are you boring me? I'm supposed to be tickled. I'm with fear. Why am I bored?
Yeah, fair enough. But that feels like a really good and easy costume as well. I'm like,
just a head bandage. Yeah, just rock
a head bandage. Yeah, tank top and a blue jacket. I'm good.
Some gauze. Yeah, just go in your medicine cabinet.
But should we get into our regularly scheduled programming?
Well, yes.
Who are we fucking marrying and killing?
So I feel like of the usable people, we can do Norman Bates, maybe like Sam the Sneaky Link, and then Miss Janet Leigh.
Sure.
What even was her name in the movie?
I don't know. Janet Leigh. It's Janet Leigh.
She gave a fake. Yeah, she gave like a fake name at one point to like try to be sneaky.
Sure.
And I don't even know her name. Janet Leigh.
I'm gonna kill Janet Leigh. Honestly.
Work.
I think that it's a shock that she didn't get killed even earlier in the film
by that cop.
Honestly,
in 2024, Janet Leigh just would have been shot.
Yeah, exactly.
She would have said, "Why do you think I'm suspicious?" And he would have said, "License to kill, LTC."
And then we would have seen the body cam footage. The face acting didn't do it for me. But I'm okay with being poor, and I think Sam was really pretty, so I'm gonna marry Sam.
Okay.
And then I'll let Norman take me to his taxidermy bird office, and he can freak it.
Yikes! I'd be like, can you put on the mom persona real quick? Let's try that out. Let's switch it up tonight, babe.
God.
Bring mommy out.
No.
Unfortunately, I am going to kill Norman Bates just because storyline wise, this is not going to work out for me. I would be enticed by the birds and he would get my ass. So I have to get ahead of the curve and I do have to kill him. Of course, I'm going to marry Janet Leigh because she has $400,000 and all she has to do is like sit down with a spreadsheet and think. Even a legal pad, notebook. Just write a plan. Some pros and cons.
You could
a 10-step system.
Really easily.
Yeah, and not even Thelma and Louise. We don't even have to drive off a cliff. We can just keep driving and then find somewhere where no one can find us because it's 1960. We can go, we'll hightail it to some sort of lesbian haven where $400,000 will stretch us quite a while.
Just get on a boat. You can give a fake name. Right? You can get on a fake name on a boat, give a fake name, call it a day, and you got a whole other life across that ocean, girl.
Right. So I'm gonna go with Miss Janet Leigh just because she's packing cash, and I think that she just needs to think about this logically because I think we can get away with it. Quite frankly, Sam can come with us too. If Sneaky Link Sam wants to come too, I don't mind. And I'll I guess I'll have sex with him. I don't see why not. He did not really leave much of an impression on me, to be quite frank. His whole situation, I was like, again, as soon as it started to sort of turn that like he was really gelling with the sister, I was like, did you even really like her? Like, what was the nature of their relationship? I have no sense of any of that. But in one of the laziest moves of all time, I recommend that if you're hosting a party and you're going to watch the movie Psycho, you should probably just eat a bird, right?
Yeah.
Because in the movie, they eat these sad-looking sandwiches in warm milk. Absolutely not. No. And then Norman Bates is seen at one point eating candy corn out of like a little paper bag, which was kind of cunty and cute, but I can't in good faith tell you that you should just eat candy corn out of a paper bag. So I think you should like have a personal Cornish hen. I think you should have to work around some bones, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't even come up with it. I think you drink a Manhattan and call it a day, because this feels like a movie that you drink whiskey to and you have a cigarette.
Yeah. Smoke inside during this film.
Exactly. Rip your bong at the AMC.
Rip your bong inside at the AMC and challenge them to take away your Stubbs membership. Say, I keep this place afloat. Say, I'm the reason you thank me every time I step into this theater. This is my house, bitch.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then what are you going to follow it up with? I'm going to say another horror movie that does use a mental illness or a mental disorder as sort of a catalyst for crime. But it was done in a way that was, in my opinion, intriguing, interesting, and unfolding. And that's the Japanese film Cure. I don't know if you've ever heard or seen of it. You would probably recognize it if you saw the the poster of it. It's fairly iconic, but it's a great movie. It's like a crime unsolving sort of film where he wears a really great trench coat the whole time, and it's just a psychological thriller, crime drama horror that I think is very much worth watching.
Sounds good to me. While I'm not impressed by this movie, I will say that I do really love the Alfred Hitchcock movie Rear Window. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I think that is a better show of how Alfred Hitchcock is like the king of suspense and all that. So I think you would watch that. I really enjoy it. I think it's fun. I think it's like this guy basically like losing his mind, he's like housebound because he's broken his leg, and he's like someone murdered someone across the way there, and he gets way too involved, and he's just snooping.
Interesting.
But I really enjoy that movie, so I think you do barely a pivot, and you just go ahead and onto that.
Little Hitchcock double feature, a little film 101 seminar that we're having.
Actually,
a cinematography seminar. A cinema seminar. A seminar on cinema. A cinema seminar. Are we hosting a cinema seminar tomorrow to talk about shadows and light in film? And you can attend. All you have to do is watch Rear Window and Psycho back to back. I never took any. Did you ever take any like film classes in college?
I took one where I did watch Rear Window. So,
well, yes. Sometimes I think that we need to be transparent about our lack of qualifications at the top of this episode. But then I remember that it's called The Swamp, and the word ass is in the title of the podcast.
You should know.
I hope no one thinks that we are qualified or trying to spread actual useful information. There was this recently, like, I don't know if it was an actual New Yorker cartoon or if it was like somebody replacing the caption on a New Yorker cartoon, but it was this guy at a bar and he's like, my buddy and I have a podcast where we talk about movies, but the kick is that we're kind of silly about it or something like that. I was like, fuck. I was like, fuck, they got my ass. I am not contributing shit. It's just, I was like, this is essentially just my diary where you and I have a phone call once a week about a movie.
Right. I could either do this for an hour or I could fart into a microphone for an hour and it wouldn't be any different.
Right. Unfortunately. Or I could just like keep a diary or like go to therapy or something. But no, this is what I've chosen.
To my friends. Yeah, I've doing
chosen
this
to
instead.
just swear loudly and publicly on the internet for anyone of consequence to just Google my name and find. It's like not hard. You can Google my full government name and then a video of me saying the word cunt will come up. Like I did that to myself, truly.
I decided to make my job search extremely harrowing.
This is on my resume. I actually volunteer this information to people when asking. So I'm like, you're going to find it. So I need to just tell you about it.
Content creator, social media specialist. Sure.
Social media mogul. Except I can't say mogul because we've hardly made a cent.
No.
But thank you all who've stuck around. Like I said, plugging the Patreon if you want to go listen to us talk about some new movies, or if you just want to hang out with us here this October, we will be covering some horror movies, just sort of topical across the genre. Really, no, the theme does not go deeper than that. Just some horror movies that I had not seen that I wanted to watch, right?
Yeah.
And that we thought would be like a nice little spread to get with the spooky vibes. And like I said, please send us pictures throughout the month of your Halloween costumes as you prepare them and get them together. I'm sure closer to the end of the month. But if you want us, like, I want to share them on our stories too, like for everyone to see. If you have a really good like movie-based costume, I would love to like make a little collage of Swamp listener movie outfits. I think that would be so cute and fun. But yeah, keep on clicking those links, sending us your movie suggestions, things you would like us to talk about, themes, chocolate vanilla stuff, all that good shit over here on the Swamp. We love you. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful week. Take care of yourself and your friends. Mental illness is real. Let's just say that at the end of the episode, I guess. Yep. In case our stance on that was not made clear enough. Don't check yourself into conversion therapy. Conversion therapy is fucked. Let's get rid of that. Let's also get rid of problematic language. I don't know.
Get rid of male directors.
Yeah. Boom. Me, tomato. Me from the back of the AMC where I'm ripping my bong. Boo.
Yeah.
Spilling my blue slushie all over myself and being like, I threw up everywhere. The movie was so scary. No, bitch, you just spilt your drink. I peed. Imagine spilling your drink and then pivoting, being like, no, the movie was so scary, I peed. Like, that's the opposite. You should be like, no, I just spilled my drink. Like, girl, no, that is piss. Anyways, have a great week, everyone. Sorry for the chaos episode. Love ya.